I left my husband behind for a 6-month military deployment. My mother-in-law and his stepbrother stayed in the house with him. I trusted them. I sent him $1,500 every month. He told me he was fine, busy, working. One day I came home without warning. The house felt wrong. He wasn't inside. I walked straight to the garage, and the moment I pulled that door up, my body froze, and nothing could prepare me for what I saw. If this is your first time here, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Put that phone down, Zuri. You always on duty. Auntie Maggie, Zuri's mother-in-law, cut through the backyard on Tanglewood Drive, South Haven, Mississippi. Zuri stood near the grill, sun on her face, phone still in her hand. A missed call from the base glowed on the screen. Zuri joined the military at 22, not for praise, not for money. She grew up learning how to stay calm when things went wrong. Her mother worked double shifts. Her father passed early. Zuri learned fast that panic never fixed anything. She chose nursing because she loved humanity. Helping came natural to her. Boot camp stripped the softness out of her voice. Medical training sharpened her hands. Long days in base hospitals taught her how to decide fast, even when lives hung in the balance. She worked trauma units, field clinics, places where time mattered more than comfort. Zuri became the nurse people called when others froze. She didn't break down. And that was the problem. Her mother-in-law, Auntie Maggie, never liked her. Maggie believed women should bend, should endure quietly, should accept what family handed them and call it duty. Zuri didn't bend. She spoke clear. She stood straight. She didn't accept defeat even when it came dressed as respect or tradition. Auntie Maggie walked around the house like she owned the place, even though Zuri's husband, Josiah, paid for it. Josiah bought the place years back, right after he married Zuri. Big yard, quiet street, space for family. He said Maggie needed stability after his father passed, and his stepbrother, Marcus, needed guidance. Zuri didn't argue. She never did when it came to family. Auntie Maggie moved in like she always belonged there. She wasn't Josiah's real mother. She married his dad when Josiah was already grown. But she carried herself like she raised him. Josiah said, "It's temporary." But temporary stretched into years. Auntie Maggie looked at Zuri and shook her head slowly. 4 years married, Maggie went on. No baby, no time, always running off in uniform. Zuri lifted her chin. "I serve my country," she said calmly. Maggie smiled wider, cold. "That doesn't make you a wife." Zuri felt that familiar pressure in her chest, the one she swallowed down every time. She remembered the first year of their marriage, small apartment near the base, quiet mornings, coffee on the porch, plans, hope. Back when it was just them. Then Maggie and Marcus moved in. The house got louder, crowded, heavy. Maggie looked at Zuri again and smiled, sweet on the outside. "You leaving again tomorrow, right? Deployment and all?" Zuri nodded. Marcus looked up fast. 6 months? He asked. Zuri met his eyes. "Yes." Maggie clapped her hands once. "See?" she said. "Your husband gonna be lonely." Zuri looked at her stepson, Marcus. "You'll make sure he's okay, right?" Marcus nodded. Slow. "Of course," he said. Zuri didn't like the way he said it. She felt something settle deep in her stomach, like a door closing. And this time, she wasn't sure who had the keys. 3 months after Zuri left for deployment, the house on Tanglewood Drive felt different, too quiet. Zuri's husband, Josiah, stood in the driveway, phone pressed to his ear. The sun set high above the neighborhood, lawns trimmed, cars parked, life moving like nothing had changed. "It's all right, honey. You don't have to rush." On the other end, Zuri's voice sounded tired, distant, like it had to travel a long way to reach him. I have to go. They moved the schedule again. Orders didn't care about time zones or marriages. Josiah nodded even though he couldn't see him. I'll be fine here. Everything's good. Behind him, the front door stayed open. Auntie Maggie sat on the porch, shelling peas into a bowl, calm, comfortable, like the house had always been hers. Marcus leaned against the railing, scrolling through his phone, barefoot, relaxed, like he had nowhere else to be. Josiah lowered his voice. I miss you. There was a pause. I miss you too. Make sure you eat. Don't let Maggie run you. Josiah smiled, small. I got it. He hung up and slid the phone into his pocket. Maggie looked up. She working again? She asked. Josiah nodded. Always, Maggie said. That uniform comes before everything. Marcus chuckled. Josiah didn't respond. He glanced down the street, the same street where Zuri had walked to the car months ago, sun hot on her back, bag over her shoulder, no tears, just focus. She didn't look back. Marcus followed his gaze. She'll be gone a while, Marcus said. House gonna be quiet. Maggie smiled. Not too quiet. Family's here. Josiah nodded. He told himself that was enough. He didn't know that this was the moment things shifted. Not loud, not fast, just subtle, like a door closing softly, behind him. Did you send it yet? Josiah's text came in while Zuri was standing in line at the base cafeteria. Sunlight poured through the wide windows. Trays clattered. Zuri stared at the message. No greeting, no question about her day, just that. She stepped out of line and walked toward the glass doors. Outside, the concrete reflected the sun. A flag snapped in the distance. She typed back, "What's it for again?" The reply came quick. "Agency stuff, just till things grow." Zuri leaned against the railing and exhaled. First of the month, again. She opened her bank app. The numbers stared back at her. She made good money. She worked hard, long shifts, no excuses. But this wasn't about the money. It was about how it was asked for. She called her husband Josiah. Straight to voicemail. Zuri clenched her jaw. Back in South Haven, the sun was high, too. She pictured the neighborhood near Church Road, the quiet stretch where their house sat. She imagined Josiah at the kitchen table, coffee mug, phone in hand. She tried again. No answer. A group of soldiers passed by. One of them looked at her phone, then at her face. "Everything good?" he asked. Zuri nodded. "Yeah." She didn't sound sure. She sent the money. $1,500. The confirmation hit her screen. Her shoulders dropped just a little. Not relief, more like defeat. Minutes later, her phone rang. Josiah. She answered fast. "Hey," she said. "I got it," he said. His voice sounded light now, relaxed. Zuri frowned. "That was quick," she said. "I needed it. You know how business is." She waited. Silence filled the line. "Where are you right now?" Zuri asked. "At the office," he said. "What office?" she asked. "Our place, downtown." Downtown South Haven. Zuri pictured Goodman Road, the small offices, the old brick buildings. She had driven those streets with him before. "Put the camera on," she said. A pause. "I can't," Josiah said. "People are around." Zuri felt her chest tighten. "I just sent you a lot of money," she said. "I want to see you." His tone shifted. "Why you acting like this every time?" he said. "You don't trust your own husband?" That word landed heavy. Trust. Zuri said nothing. In the silence, she heard something faint on his end, a sound, like a chair scraping, like someone moving close. Then a woman's voice. Not clear, not loud, but familiar. Josiah spoke fast. "I gotta go," he said. The call ended. Zuri stared at the screen. She sat down on the bench outside the building. Sunlight hit her face. Sweat gathered at her hairline. Her phone lit up again. A message. "Don't stress, honey. Everything's under control." Under control? The words made her stomach twist. Later that day, Zuri pulled up an old email. She searched for the name of the agency. She scanned documents Josiah had sent months ago. Logos, plans, promises. Nothing recent. No updates. No proof. She closed her eyes. A memory pushed forward. Auntie Maggie standing in the doorway back on Tanglewood Drive, South Haven, Mississippi, arms crossed, watching her count money once before a trip. "You always payin' for everything," Maggie had said, smiling. "Must be nice." Zuri opened her eyes. Something wasn't right. She didn't know what yet, but every month, $1,500 left her account, and every month, her husband, Josiah, felt farther away. Her phone vibrated one more time, a notification from their joint account. She frowned and opened it. There was a charge she didn't recognize. Small, recent, and made in South Haven. Zuri sat still in the sun, staring at the screen. Who else was using his card? Slowly, Zuri started noticing things about Josiah. Patterns, lies, attitude that doesn't feel familiar. That morning, Zuri didn't lift her head. She stood outside the medical unit, sunlight bouncing off the concrete. A transport truck passed. Someone laughed near the loading bay. Life moved fast around her. Her phone stayed still. "No," Zuri said. She checked the time again. 9:47 a.m. Josiah should have called already. He always did. No message, no missed call, no busy right now. That wasn't like him. Zuri stepped away from the group and sat on a low wall near the edge of the compound. The sun pressed into her shoulders. Heat climbed her neck. She refreshed her screen. Nothing. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Her jaw tightened. As a nurse, Zuri trusted patterns. She trusted routine. She knew when silence meant rest and when it meant avoidance. She stood and paced, called Josiah. Straight to voicemail. Her chest tightened. She tried again. Same thing. This wasn't work. This wasn't bad timing. This felt deliberate. Her phone vibrated. Finally, a text. "Sorry, long day." That was all. No voice, no callback, no explanation. Zuri stared at the screen. She typed. "Can you call me now?" The dots appeared, then vanished. Nothing came after. A sergeant slowed as he passed, eyes flicking from her face to her phone. "You okay, nurse?" he asked. Zuri nodded. "Yeah." She didn't sound sure. She sat back down, staring across the open space. Soldiers joked nearby, someone tossed a football. The sky stayed clear and bright. The calm felt wrong. Her phone vibrated again. Another text. "I'm fine, just tired." Zuri closed her eyes for a moment. She saw the kitchen back on Tanglewood Drive, sunlight on the counters, Josiah behind her, arms around her waist, laughing about nothing. But that man felt far away now. "Show me your face," she said quietly. She sent it. No reply. Zuri swallowed hard. She called him again. This time, he answered. "What? What do you want?" Josiah said. The tone hit her first, sharp, defensive. Zuri froze. "Why are you talking to me like that?" she asked. "I told you I'm tired. You stressing me out." Her hand trembled, but her voice stayed calm. "In what way?" Silence. Then the movement on his end, something shifting. Josiah lowered his voice. "I gotta go." "Wait," Zuri said. "Who's with you?" "No one," he said too fast. The call ended. Zuri stared at her screen. Her reflection stared back. Something inside her shifted, not broken, cracked. Her phone buzzed again. Not a message, an alert, another charge from their joint account. Zuri's fingers tightened around the phone. If Josiah was fine, then who kept spending the money?
"Josiah, sit down," Maggie commanded. His legs didn't listen. He rubbed the side of his neck, irritated, like he had been doing a lot lately. The headaches, the pressure behind his eyes, the dizziness he kept brushing off. "I told you I'm fine," he snapped, sharper than he used to be. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. Sunlight poured in through the front window of their house on Tanglewood Drive, South Haven, Mississippi, bright and clean, catching every sharp edge of the broken glass. Josiah tried to speak. Nothing came out. His mouth moved, but the words stayed stuck. His vision blurred on one side. His right arm dropped against his side like it didn't belong to him anymore. Auntie Maggie stood by the counter. She didn't rush. No 911 call. No help. She just stared. "Marcus, over here," she called, loud and steady. Josiah fell sideways, hitting the edge of the table before sliding to the floor. His face twisted. Panic showed in his eyes. He tried to lift his arm again. It wouldn't respond. The clock on the wall kept ticking. Marcus ran in from the living room. He took one look and froze. "What is he doing?" Marcus asked. Auntie Maggie didn't answer right away. She looked at Josiah's face, the slack mouth, the dead arm, the way his words wouldn't come. She knew what this was. "It's a stroke," she said, smiling faintly. Blood pressure finally caught up to him. "Get the phone," she said, calm, firm. Marcus pulled his phone out. Josiah lifted his left hand, shaking. He pointed toward the door, toward the street, toward help. His breathing grew uneven, heavy, wrong. Auntie Maggie stepped in front of him. "Don't," she said. Marcus hesitated. "Shouldn't we call someone?" She shot him a look. "Not yet." Josiah's body trembled. Sweat broke out across his forehead. One side of his face sagged slightly, the words still trapped inside him. Auntie Maggie bent down and picked up Josiah's phone from the table. She looked at the screen. Zuri's name sat at the top. She scrolled. Bank alerts, missed calls, monthly transfers. Maggie nodded to herself. She turned the phone face down. "Get the chair," she said. Marcus frowned. "Mom, now." He moved fast. Josiah tried to grab Maggie's leg. His fingers barely closed, weak, slow. She stepped back. "Relax," she said. "You always doing too much." Minutes later, Josiah sat slumped in a chair near the garage door. His head leaned to one side. His eyes stayed open, locked on her. The concrete floor felt cold through his clothes. His chest rose and fell unevenly. Auntie Maggie wiped her hands with a towel. "You scared for nothing," she said. "High blood pressure does this sometimes." Josiah tried again to speak. Only a broken sound came out. She turned away. Across town, sunlight hit the windows of small shops along Goodman Road. People walked in and out, coffee cups in hand, normal life. No one knew a stroke was unfolding inside that house. Marcus stood by the door. "So what about Zuri?" he asked. Auntie Maggie stopped. She smiled. "That girl doesn't need to know everything," she said. "She's too busy playing soldier anyway." She picked up Josiah's phone again and held it out to Marcus. "You type," she said. "Make it sound like him. No mistakes." Marcus hesitated, then took it. Maggie watched as the message went out, slow, careful, familiar words, familiar tone. Then she locked the phone and slipped it into her pocket. "We handle this. Family business." Marcus nodded, though his face looked unsure. Josiah's breathing stayed uneven. His body slumped further. The light from the open garage door cut across the floor in a long, thin line. Hours passed. No call went out. No ambulance came. No help arrived. Only the sounds of the neighborhood outside, lawnmowers, kids yelling, a dog barking somewhere down the block. At the base overseas, Zuri checked her phone again. Still nothing. Back on Tanglewood Drive, Auntie Maggie pulled the garage door down halfway, blocking the light. She stood there for a moment, listening to Josiah struggle for breath. Then she smiled to herself. When the wrong people take control, they don't rush, they wait. And Josiah hadn't just lost his voice, he had lost control.
Hold him still. Marcus pushed the wheelchair forward as the garage door rattled halfway open. Daylight spilled in from the driveway, cutting across the concrete floor. Dust floated in the air. The smell of oil and old tools hung heavy. Josiah tried to move. His body didn't respond the way it used to. The chair bumped over the lip of the floor and stopped near the back wall. A lawnmower sat crooked in the corner. Boxes stacked high blocked the window. The space felt closed in even with the sun outside. Auntie Maggie stepped in last and pulled the door down a little more. Not all the way, just enough. Don't want the neighbors asking questions, she said. Josiah's eyes followed her, wide, wet. Marcus grabbed a length of rope from a shelf. Mom, he ain't going nowhere, Marcus said. He can't even do it, Maggie snapped. Marcus hesitated. Then he leaned down and wrapped the rope around Josiah's chest, tied against the wheelchair frame. Josiah jerked, his breath catching. His left hand twitched, reaching for Marcus's arm. Marcus avoided his eyes. Stop moving, Marcus muttered. Auntie Maggie watched the whole thing, arms crossed. Josiah tried to speak. The sound came out wrong. Maggie pressed her lips together. Always loud, she said, even when you don't need to be. She reached into her purse and pulled out a roll of tape. She tore a strip with her teeth and pressed it over his mouth. Firm. Josiah shook his head. His breath fogged the tape. Now, Maggie said, stepping back, you can rest. Marcus let out a short laugh, nervous, sharp. Ha! Man, he said, this is crazy. Maggie looked at him. What's crazy, she said, is how much trouble he caused us. She bent down and picked up Josiah's wallet from the workbench. Cards slid halfway out. She checked them one by one, then tucked them into her purse. Phone? She asked. Marcus handed it over. Maggie smiled when she saw the screen light up. Zuri's name appeared again. She turned the phone off. Josiah's chest rose and fell fast. Sweat soaked his shirt. His eyes stayed locked on Maggie. She leaned close. You always thought you were better than me, better than this family. Josiah shook his head slightly. She laughed. Don't lie now. Marcus shifted his weight. He looked toward the door, then back at Josiah. So what now, Mom? He asked. Maggie straightened up. Now, she said, we keep things simple. She walked over to the door and pulled it down another inch. Light still came through, but not much. Food, water, enough to keep him steady. Josiah let out a strained sound behind the tape. Maggie turned back. You're not dying today, she said. Don't look at me like that. She grabbed a clipboard from the shelf. Papers were clipped to it. Documents, forms. She tapped them with her finger. He got assets, houses, rent coming in, accounts. Marcus's eyes widened. He got that much? He asked. Maggie smiled again. He never liked sharing, she said, but now he don't have a choice. Josiah's heart pounded. He stared at the papers, at the pen Maggie held. She placed it in his weak hand and closed his fingers around it. Just help us help you, she said. Josiah tried to pull away. His arm fell limp. Marcus laughed, louder this time. This is easy, he said. Maggie nodded. Always is, when people can't speak for themselves. Across the ocean, Zuri stood outside the medical unit, phone in her hand, staring at another missed call notification that never came. Back on Tanglewood Drive, Auntie Maggie stepped out of the garage and wiped her hands on her dress. She pulled the door down the rest of the way. The metal slammed shut. Josiah flinched. The light disappeared, and with it, his last connection to the outside world. First of the month, the clerk said. Zuri nodded and slid her card across the counter. The bank sat near the edge of the base, all glass and bright floors. Sunlight poured through the windows. A line formed behind her. Someone tapped their foot. She watched the screen as the numbers loaded. $1,500. Again. The receipt printed. She folded it and tucked it into her pocket like it meant nothing. Outside, the heat hit her face. She stopped on the sidewalk and checked her phone. No call, no video, just a text waiting. Got it, appreciate you. Zuri stared at the words. They felt empty. She typed back, Honey, how's it going there? How's the agency doing? Minutes passed. She walked toward the parking lot. Soldiers crossed the street in front of her. A bus rolled by. Normal day, normal sun. Her phone lit up. Growing, just slow. No details. She sat in her car and closed the door. The air felt thick. She rested her forehead on the steering wheel and breathed. Back in South Haven, Maggie stepped out of a boutique near Goodman Road with 2 shopping bags swinging from her arm. Marcus followed, smiling, sunglasses on. Try this one too, he said, pointing at a window display. Maggie laughed. We got time. They loaded the bags into the trunk of Josiah's car. Card still good? Marcus asked. Maggie waved the card. Never better. Back overseas, Zuri sat at a table in the break area. She opened her laptop and pulled up photos Josiah used to send. Old smiles, old places, a shot of him standing near the corner of Church Road, waving at the camera. She checked the date. Months ago. She scrolled. Nothing new. A nurse across from her leaned over. Your man still acting funny? She asked, half joking. Zuri stiffened. What you mean? She asked. The nurse shrugged. You always checking your phone, just saying. Zuri forced a smile. He's busy, she said. The nurse raised an eyebrow, then looked away. Judgment hung in the air. Later, Zuri walked the path behind the medical building. The sun stayed high. Birds cut across the sky. She called Josiah again. Voicemail. She texted, Can you FaceTime me later? The reply came fast. Not today. No reason. Her chest tightened. Back on Tanglewood Drive, Maggie stood in the kitchen, phone in hand. She typed with care, slow and neat. Marcus leaned against the counter, eating chips. You think she's buying this? He asked. Maggie smiled. She always does. She set the phone down and turned toward the garage. Check on 'em, she said. Marcus groaned, but walked out back. The garage door stayed shut. He unlocked it and stepped inside. Light cut in for a moment, then settled. Relax, Marcus said. You're still breathing. Josiah made a sound behind the tape. Marcus rolled his eyes and shut the door again. Across the ocean, Zuri sat on the edge of her bunk. She opened her bank app without meaning to. Another charge from their joint account. Clothes store, South Haven. Her hand shook. She stood and walked outside into the sun, phone pressed tight to her ear as she called again. This time, Josiah answered. What now? He said. Zuri swallowed. I saw another charge, she said. What are you buying? Silence. Then a laugh, short, forced. You tracking me now? Stop acting crazy, girl. Crazy? The word burned. I'm your wife, Zuri said. I send you money every month. Then stop asking questions, he snapped. I told you I got this. The line went dead. Zuri stared at the screen. Her reflection looked smaller than she felt. On a quiet street in South Haven, Maggie slipped Josiah's phone into her pocket and locked the door. Control was easy when one side never got to speak, and Zuri was still sending the $1,500 every month. The sun hit hard on Tanglewood Drive, South Haven, Mississippi, and the quiet street felt hotter than usual. Mrs. Carter, Josiah's neighbor, leaned on her fence, eyes fixed on the garage 2 houses down. The door stayed closed all day, every day. But that morning, the small window at the top caught her eye. A faint movement, a shadow. She frowned. Josiah hadn't been out in weeks. Not once mowing the lawn, not once walking to the mailbox. Marcus was always the one driving his car, but Josiah, gone. Mrs. Carter sipped her iced tea and scanned the street. The neighborhood was calm, lawns trimmed, mailboxes lined up. Kids' bikes leaned against porches. Everything normal, except that garage. Later that afternoon, she was watering her hydrangeas when she heard it, a sharp knock, or maybe a scrape from inside the garage. Her heart jumped. She froze, hand on the hose. The sound came again, quick, quiet, almost like someone tapping on a chair. Mrs. Carter's hands shook. She wiped them on her apron. She didn't know what to do. Call the cops? Knock on the door? Then she remembered Zuri. Her fingers trembled as she dialed. "Zuri?" she said when the line connected. "Mrs. Carter?" Zuri's voice was tired, overseas, sunlight filtering through her barracks window. "Something's wrong," Mrs. Carter said, whispering even though she didn't have to. The garage lights on. Josiah. I don't know. I think someone's keeping him inside. I heard a sound." Zuri's hand went cold. She pressed it against her chest. "Wait, what kind of sound? A knock, or like a tap? I don't know." Zuri closed her eyes, her stomach twisted. "I've been sending money every month. I just thought he was busy, that's all." "Listen, girl, he's not outside. Marcus drives his car, and Auntie Maggie, she's always around him. I don't know what's going on. I've never seen Josiah." Zuri opened her eyes and looked around her room at the stacks of paperwork, old photos, and bills. Her hand trembled over her phone. Her mind raced. Every text, every denied FaceTime, every charge on the card connected to their joint account. All those months, she felt sick. Can you check?" she asked. "I can't go in myself, but I can watch. I'll keep an eye. Just let me know, please." Zuri swallowed hard. She gripped the phone like it was the last thing keeping her sane. "Thank you," she whispered. I don't know what I'll do if something's happened." Mrs. Carter hesitated, then said, "Something isn't right, Zuri. You need to come back soon. Don't wait." Zuri's chest tightened. She thought about the base, her deployment orders, the weeks left. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Could she leave? The line went silent for a moment. Then Mrs. Carter's voice came again, urgent, almost panicked. "Zuri, the garage door, it moved just now. Someone's in there." Zuri froze. Her stomach dropped. Her eyes darted around her small barracks room. Sunlight streaming through the blinds felt suddenly heavy, almost too bright. The world felt wrong. She whispered to herself, voice trembling, What is happening to him?" The call ended, and for the first time, Zuri understood something she hadn't dared to imagine. Whatever was happening back on Tanglewood Drive, it wasn't normal, and she couldn't wait anymore. The next morning, Zuri pulled up flight schedules on her phone. Hands shaking, she booked the first flight out of the base, right to Memphis International Airport. Sunlight reflected off the screen, making the numbers blur. She didn't care. She booked it. She called Mrs. Carter back. "I'm coming," she said, voice shaking but determined. "I'll be there today. I can't wait." Mrs. Carter's voice cracked with relief. "Thank God, Zuri. Just drive safe. Don't stop for anything." Zuri hung up and shoved the phone in her pocket. She grabbed her duffel bag, checked her ID, and ran her hands over her uniform. Sweat prickled her skin, but it didn't matter. Time was moving fast, or maybe it felt fast because her heart wouldn't stop. Planes, tickets, cars, directions, nothing could slow her now. She thought about the first time Josiah had called her from South Haven, smiling at the corner of Church Road, waving. That image felt distant, almost unreal. Her chest tightened again, the idea of him trapped, helpless, silent, pressed against her ribs like a weight. She didn't call anyone else, not the base, not her friends. This was hers. She had to see him herself. Her flight was booked for mid-afternoon. The sun was high, heat pressed against the windows of the base terminal. She felt every second, every minute dragging her closer to South Haven. She could picture the street now, Tanglewood Drive, neat lawns, mailboxes lined in a row, children's bikes left on porches, a quiet neighborhood hiding chaos behind one garage door. Her hands trembled as she imagined opening it. The car ride from the airport to South Haven felt endless. Trees passed in a blur, sunlight bounced off asphalt. Every street sign felt like a countdown. Her stomach turned with every mile. Mrs. Carter had promised to stay close. She would watch. She would guide her. Zuri gripped the steering wheel tighter. Every instinct screamed. Something had changed. Something had shifted. By the time she reached Tanglewood Drive, her hands were shaking so badly she had to pull over for a moment. She whispered to herself, voice barely audible. What would I find behind that door? As Zuri's car rolled into the driveway, tires crunching over the gravel, the garage was partially closed, just like Mrs. Carter had said. Marcus stepped out from behind the car, frozen. His coffee cup slipped from his hand. You weren't supposed to be back, Auntie Maggie said, her smile tight, forced. Zuri didn't answer. She swung her bag over her shoulder, stepped out, and felt the sun on her skin. It didn't warm her. It only made the air heavier, sharper. She walked past them, slow, deliberate. Auntie Maggie stepped closer. Zuri, listen. I'm not listening, Zuri said. Her voice was steady, low, but every word cut the air like a blade. She stopped at the edge of the driveway, the garage door, half shut. Marcus shifted, nervous. Ma, can we talk? Move, Zuri said, cold. He didn't. Auntie Maggie stepped forward, blocking the way. Zuri, it's fine. I can explain. Zuri's eyes met hers. No fear, just resolve. I don't need explanations, she said. I just need to see him. The garage door was low enough that a narrow strip of light cut across the driveway. Dust floated in it. Zuri reached out, fingers brushing the metal. Cold, solid. Her chest tightened. Open it, she said, her voice soft now but filled with fire. Marcus stepped back. Auntie Maggie's eyes narrowed. This wasn't supposed to happen, Maggie muttered under her breath. Zuri ignored her. She pressed her shoulder against the door. It rattled. She pushed harder. The door didn't budge. The strip of light from the top window stretched across the garage floor. Zuri could see shadows, movement, a chair. Her stomach flipped, her breath caught. Josiah, she called out. Honey, are you there? No reply. Her hand shook as she tried again. The metal scraped under her shoulder. Then a sound. A weak cough. Her heart stopped. The shadow inside the garage shifted just a little, but it was enough. Auntie Maggie and Marcus exchanged a look. Something unspoken passed between them. Confidence slipping. Arrogance fading. Zuri's eyes narrowed. Every muscle in her body tensed. She pressed again, slowly. The garage door creaked. The strip of light grew wider. And then she saw it. Something that made her knees weaken. Something she hadn't expected. Josiah, her husband, sitting in the wheelchair, tied, tape over his mouth, pale, weak. Her hands flew to her mouth. She stumbled back a step. Auntie Maggie's forced smile faltered completely. Marcus swallowed hard, shifting nervously. Zuri's chest heaved, her mind raced. For 6 months? Every dollar, every text, every "I'm fine," all a lie. Her eyes locked on Josiah, and one question burned hotter than the Mississippi sun. How far had they gone? Josiah, honey, look at me, she shouted, voice cracking. He saw her, his eyes filled with recognition, pain, relief. He tried to scream, tried to reach for her, but the tape muffled it. His hands shook against the ropes.
Zuri's heart pounded so hard she felt it in her throat. She ran forward and dropped to her knees beside him. "Shh, it's okay," she said, fumbling with the tape. Tears streaked her face. I'm here now." She tore the tape carefully. Josiah gasped, pulling in air like he hadn't breathed in days. His voice was hoarse, cracked. "Zuri," he croaked. She wrapped her arms around him, careful of the ropes. He sobbed into her shoulder, shaking, powerless. Auntie Maggie stepped back, jaw tight. Marcus hovered near the door, unsure. Their confidence, so solid for months, wavered now in the daylight. "Zuri, wait," Maggie started. "Don't talk," Zuri snapped, head whipping toward her. "Don't you dare!" Marcus flinched. Zuri looked at Josiah. Every bruise, every shadow of neglect, every day he'd been alone, it hit her like a punch to the chest. She pulled off the ropes around his wrists and chest. They were raw, red, and tender. Josiah's tears fell freely. His body trembled. "Why?" he whispered, voice barely audible. Zuri shook her head, hands still gripping him. She couldn't speak, couldn't think. Outside, a neighbor walked past, quiet judgment in their gaze. No waving, no smiling, just watching. The street was still, except for a dog barking down the block. Zuri turned toward Auntie Maggie and Marcus. "You lied," she said. Her voice was low, dangerous. "You lied about everything." Maggie's lips pressed tight. Marcus's hands trembled. Zuri's eyes went back to Josiah. She held him close, checking his face, his arms, his legs. He could move a little, but weakness spread through him like ice. She whispered to him, "It's okay, honey. We'll fix this. I'm not leaving you." Josiah's tears fell harder. No sound, just sobs. The sound of sirens cut through Tanglewood Drive, bright and urgent. Red and blue lights bounced off the lawns, across the sidewalks. Birds scattered, neighbors peeked from windows, whispered behind curtains. Zuri stayed by Josiah's wheelchair, hands gripping his shoulders. His eyes were wide, still scared, still fragile. Auntie Maggie screamed from the front porch, "This is insane! You can't do this!" Marcus ran toward the street, panic in his steps. He didn't know where to go. The police cars blocked the way. A uniformed officer grabbed him gently but firmly. "Stay put," he said. Marcus froze, hands in the air. Auntie Maggie's voice was loud and desperate. "He's my son! You can't—" "Ma'am, you're under arrest," another officer said, calm but firm. Zuri's heart pounded. For 6 months, the truth had been buried under lies, under silence, under manipulation. And now it was surfacing, sudden and violent like sunlight breaking through a storm. Handcuffs clicked around Maggie's wrists. She struggled, spit flying, rage pouring out in every syllable. But it didn't matter. The officers didn't flinch. Josiah leaned slightly forward, weak but watching. His mouth moved, forming the words Zuri had waited months to hear. "Zuri," she bent closer. "I'm here," she whispered. "It's over." But outside, Marcus was cuffed too. His shoulders slumped. Confidence and arrogance evaporated in seconds. He hadn't expected the world to push back, to fight for what was right. The officers read the charges out loud. Abuse, fraud, kidnapping, theft. Each word landed like a hammer. Neighbors watched. Some whispered, some shook their heads, some just stared. The quiet judgment of months finally had a voice. Zuri helped Josiah sit more upright. The wheelchair wobbled under his weight, but he gripped her hands, squeezing. His eyes were wet, grateful, afraid, relieved. Mrs. Carter walked over slowly. "You did the right thing, Zuri," she said, her voice low but steady. Zuri nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you," she said. "If you hadn't called me, I wouldn't have known." The police cars pulled away.
The flashing lights reflected off the garage floor, the concrete, Josiah's pale face. Zuri held him close, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "We're going to fix this, I promise." Josiah nodded weakly, barely able to speak, but his eyes told the truth. He survived, and now maybe they could start again. But even as the last siren faded down the street, a small piece of unease stayed. Because the money, the properties, the lies, not everything had been uncovered. Zuri looked toward the garage, the shadows, the scattered papers, and she realized this fight wasn't over. The office on Memphis Street was quiet. Papers stacked neatly, the hum of the fluorescent lights above, and the faint smell of coffee lingering in the air. Zuri sat at her desk, uniform crisp, cap folded on the chair beside her. This was the administrative wing of the base, the place where orders were signed, leaves approved, and careers ended. She looked down at her hands. No medals, no reports, no missions, only the weight of what mattered most. Her emergency leave had already run out, medical extensions denied, deployment orders waiting. If she stayed, she would be sent out again, and Josiah would be alone. Slowly, she unbuttoned her jacket. One button, two. Her fingers shook. The badge slid off. The patches followed. She folded them neatly, almost reverently, and placed them in the drawer. This wasn't quitting. It was choosing. A coworker peeked in. "Everything okay, Zuri?" She didn't answer. She only shook her head once, small, decisive. There were things the uniform couldn't protect anymore. No one spoke after that. They didn't need to. Silence filled the room, like approval, like understanding. They knew. Everyone had heard about her husband, the stroke, the recovery, the mess left behind. Outside, the sunlight hit the parking lot, bright and sharp. Cars gleamed, people walked past without knowing the storm that had passed behind these walls. Zuri walked out of the office, not a soldier anymore, not a nurse on deployment, just herself, a wife who had waited, worried, and fought from a distance. The drive to South Haven was quiet. Her hands gripped the wheel tightly, knuckles white. She thought of Josiah, his eyes when he saw her at the garage, the tape over his mouth, the wheelchair, his tears. Rehab started that day. Small steps, first a foot to the floor, then another. Pain stretched across his body like a stubborn shadow. Some days he could walk a few feet on his own. Some days he collapsed back into the chair, tears streaking his pale face. Zuri stayed with him every step, every tear, every frustrated, angry moment. She didn't complain. She didn't cry. She only held his hand, whispered encouragement, and let him know he wasn't alone. This was her new post. The house on Tanglewood Drive had changed, lights brighter, curtains pulled back, no shadows hiding secrets anymore. Yet Zuri knew old ghosts lingered in corners. The garage still smelled faintly of oil and neglect. Auntie Maggie and Marcus were gone. Prison. Justice done. The money trail stopped. The lies ended. But healing didn't come with handcuffs. One afternoon, Zuri watched Josiah in the backyard, sunlight on his face. He managed a few steps across the lawn, unsteady but determined. "You've got this," she said softly. He looked at her, not with fear this time, not with confusion, with gratitude, with love, and with a quiet question in his eyes. "How much did this cost you?" Zuri swallowed. She squeezed his hand. Some answers didn't need words. The neighbors walked past, curious but respectful. Some nodded, some didn't, some still whispered. Zuri didn't care. She had already survived louder things.
Inside, boxes of old letters, documents, and receipts sat untouched, proof of what had been lost and what had been protected. She would deal with them someday. Today was about standing, about breathing, about now. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across Tanglewood Drive, Josiah took one more careful step, then another. Then he stopped, steady this time, and looked at Zuri. She smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because everything was finally honest. She had taken off her uniform, justice had been served, and the house was quiet again. Let me know in the comment, if you were Zuri, would you give up who you are to save who you love?